We are back live with the Messi chants in the background. Inter Miami CF 4-1 um, against Philadelphia Union in the first ever club semifinal, and then clinching a berth to their first ever final in outstanding fashion. So much to talk about, so much to digest. The final whistle has just been blown. Ashley from the English side of Messi and Co is here with me. We'll have Gian on in a little bit. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Make sure you let us know. Your voices can be heard. If you have any questions, let us know as well. This has just been a crazy, crazy competition for Inter Miami and Messi and Co. And I don't even know really where to get started. These guys are averaging 4 goals a game with Messi starting, or just about. I guess they only scored 3 against Orlando, 4-0 against Atlanta, 3-1 to Orlando, 4-0 against Atlanta, 4-4 against Dallas, 4-0 against Charlotte, and now 4-1 against Philadelphia. I don't even know what to say anymore. Ashley, can you help me gather my thoughts?
Honestly, Austin, I'm right there with you. What a spectacular performance against a really difficult team that if you didn't know better, I mean, for the first 45 minutes, you'd be like, oh, well, this must just be a run-of-the-mill team. I mean, the way that Inter Miami played on defense, their midfield played outstanding. And then, to eat a lot of my words yesterday, Joseph Martinez had a great first half, scored an absolutely fantastic goal, great finish. Yeah, I mean, and Christoph played a phenomenal game after we were ready to to put him on the bench. But it was overall, really end to end a fantastic performance. I think Drake Callender should probably be man of the match. I don't know if he will be. I don't know if they've announced it yet. But he was outstanding as well. And Taylor Twellman said it a lot during the broadcast, on the English broadcast, that what you're seeing right now is unprecedented because it's not just this one player who's coming and just being, the best, which it is. Messi is the best in the world. I would take him today over anyone else in the world. But the whole entire team has leveled up their game to an extraordinary level. And when you have Busquets, you have Alba, you're seeing the effects on all 11 playing on the field at once. You're seeing people play consistently, hardworking, diligently. They're using a lot of discipline. They're playing really fantastic, smart football, and it's a joy. And we're going to the finals, and I will see what happens in this next game. Fingers crossed that South Florida can host the Cup final.
Yeah, and I want to get to that because Sarah here has said in the comments, as I'm about to bring in our friend Gian, Sarah has said here in the comments, going to the final, who do we want, Nashville or Monterrey? Well, I do think that Monterrey is the better side. However, if Monterrey beat Nashville, then the game, as Ashley just mentioned, gets to be at Drive Pink Stadium. If Nashville go ahead and take this semifinal over Monterrey, then the game is going to be in Nashville. Another thing that should be noted, which we have talked about earlier on, Miami have clinched a spot in the 2024 Concacaf Champions Cup. And I'm going to add on to this, guys, and I don't know if we've mentioned this yet. It's something I just thought about. If they go ahead and win that international competition next year in 2024, they will then be a part of the 2025 Club World Cup. And where is the Club World Cup being held? The United States of America. And so it's kind of just setting up almost too perfectly. But let's get back to the game there. But yeah, to answer your question, to answer your question, Sarah, I think we want Monterrey to win so we can have a final at Drive Pink Stadium.
Yeah, I think we want to host
Gian,
for sure.
Gian, what are your thoughts, man? I mean, I don't know. Where do we start? We haven't really gotten into anything yet. I mean, we're still kind of breaking it all down. You can go with the Messi goal if you want. You could go with the Joseph goal. I mean, that first half was impeccable football.
Yeah, I think it was definitely a tale of two halves, like if we've ever seen one, most definitely. Yeah, so I think that Inter did a great job in the first half. I think they did a good job establishing the midfield. I think they did a great job of exploiting Philadelphia's weaknesses. They thought that from the beginning, realized that, man, these guys are leaving huge spaces for us to abuse on every counterattack. And something that we haven't seen much of, I think, is, we're so used to Inter kind of building up little by little, a lot of nice touches and very organized, as opposed to what we saw this time was like, I can't remember the last time we saw Christoph putting like those long balls,
That's awesome.
like
I was eating my words from yesterday.
Yeah, like that's something that we hadn't seen yet. So it was like, it just shows like this team is so dynamic. Like that's so smart to like understand what needs to be done, and every game is different. So I think definitely Inter did a great job. Christoph did a great job, and I didn't expect 4 goals. I'll be honest with you. But
and if you look at that first goal, speaking of Sergei Christoph, if you look at that first goal and you look at the way that Philadelphia was having to defend, you saw Daniel Gazdag, think about where he should be. Should he go and attack Christoph or give him the space, or should he go ahead and stay on his man marking assignment, which was Sergio Busquets, and he deferred to marking Busquets, Christoph in space, and then with the ball over the top. If you look at where Lionel Messi was, there were 2 defenders man marking him at the same time the ball was being played over the top. That is exactly what Tata Martino wants teams to do. It's, you obviously have the benefit of the quality of Sergio Busquets and Lionel Messi when they're actually on the ball, but when they're off the ball, the attention that they require is of more attention than any other player in the league, takes on. And Miami have exploited that absolutely perfectly tonight, especially here in that first half. You even saw it with Robert Taylor in the goal with Jordi Alba, how he crossed into the midfield with a couple of touches and then made a divine pass down the wing to Jordi Alba, who was through on goal. So many different aspects of the game working in Miami's favor. And one other note that I want to point out to you guys, and I kind of want to get into a discussion on whether or not this is worrisome or not. Only 4 shots on target. And how many goals did Miami score? 4. Is that something that you look at and say, oh, they need to be more, efficient on offense? Not more efficient, but I mean, obviously you're 100% efficiency at that point. But I'm saying, do they need a higher output of shots on target? Or do they have the quality enough to say we can score team goals, we can score individual goals, as long as they go in and we defend on the back end, we're fine? Where do you stand there?
Go ahead, Gian.
I think that in this case, it was more, I feel like it was more so dictated by the game, simply because they were able to get ahead so early. And then just like the second half was, I don't want to get too into the second half because we'll talk about that, but it's just a tale of 2 halves, where the first half was very offensive and making sure we get those shots in. The second half was very laid back on the offensive end. So I feel like that's kind of what played into those 4 shots. We've seen Inter take a lot more shots than that in these last few games. So that was more so, I think, just how the game was going. But I'm not someone that thinks that that's going to continue. I think that was very particular to this game. And next game, I can see us obviously the shots going up. Messi, I think, was averaging just himself like about between 4.5 and 5 shots a game.
Yeah.
So that this was quite unusual for us, and I don't think it's worrisome. I just, again, think it was dictated by the game itself.
Messi with 1 total shot came from 30 yards out and hit
what
the
a
bottom.
Shot it was.
Hit the bottom corner as perfectly as you ever could. Now, a lot of people saying Andre Blake is to blame for some of this. I do agree that I have seen a lot better goalkeeping performances from Andre Blake, who is arguably one of the best, if not the best, keepers in MLS in the last decade. I don't think it's really harsh to say that. I think he's genuinely been up there. Drake Callender might be taking the ranks a little bit. Ashley, can you speak on Drake Callender's performance and what we are continuing to see from him? I wish he would have gotten a clean sheet back to back, but nonetheless, he saved Miami here a couple of times.
Yeah, absolutely. And, as coming from someone who played goalie growing up, my first, when I played club soccer, he was spectacular. And I think what he's doing is, and we spoke about it actually a little bit yesterday, it's about seizing the opportunities you have and not letting your opponent seize theirs, right? There's games come with ebbs and flows and different runs. And, Philadelphia has a lot of quality. So they were going to get their shots that they needed to get. And Drake did his job. I mean, he was big. He made, really great, quick saves, quick decisions. He was great with distribution too, in my opinion. And yeah, I think, like we said, Messi can't do everything. He can't be all 11 players. I mentioned this a little bit earlier. I'll say it again. It's unprecedented what we're seeing right now. And I think professional team sports, I think Taylor Tolman gave a great example when he said, look, LeBron went to Cleveland in 2003. Took them a few years before they really, they made the playoffs and the finals, and then they even lost in the finals. Michael Jordan, same thing, didn't make it to the playoffs at first, took a long time to get his first win. While those are different sports and everything like that, this kind of like success is unprecedented, and every single player on the pitch, starting from the striker today, which we saw with Joseph, all the way back to our goalkeeper, are playing elite football. And when you have them making their saves and not letting other teams capitalize on the mistakes that are bound to happen in every game, I think you're seeing something really, really dangerous and really fantastic. And I hope, with all eyes on this match and all eyes on Messi, I think Drake is trying to cement himself further and further on that U.S. men's national team roster, especially as we're about to host some big tournaments. And so it's really great to see, because I think he deserves it. He worked so hard. He was our best player the first half of the season. It didn't always show that on the score sheet, but he kept Miami in a lot of games. And to see him now being able to still make those saves and kind of get the recognition I think he deserves, it's really awesome to see.
Yeah, and there's a couple more notes here that Taylor Twellman was making that I do want to address. And I actually am going to start with Gian on this and let's talk about Joseph Martinez before I can pull up some numbers, because the goal itself was, I'll say, outstanding. I think that's exactly what you come to expect from Joseph Martinez over the last couple of years in the league. He has not shown that he's had that finishing quality. Messi has deferred penalties to him to, help boost his confidence. Obviously, the ball from Cristal was perfect, but there was so much for him to do on that finish. And given what you saw in that first half before being subbed out, did it solidify him as the starter going forward? Did you like what you saw? Because for me personally, still want to see a little bit more, but at the same time, that finish is exactly what you want from a striker. And for him to be able to get in behind like that is not necessarily something that Campana has in his locker, at least as of, from what we've seen. He's a different kind of striker. So where do you stand on Joseph Martinez after getting the opening goal in the 3rd minute in this one?
I think we saw what we wanted to see from Joseph. I think that we've seen him struggle, the last few games where, like you said, Messi's been trying to get him into the game, trying to give him that opportunity to score those penalties. Because one of the things for the offensive player is, like, when you have offensive players struggle in Spanish, like we have this saying that, like, if you just need that one goal, right? And as soon as you get that one goal, that kind of opens it up for you. Sometimes you struggle. So I think that a lot of times we've seen him kind of like being very hesitant to score the ball. He's had countless opportunities where the ball's coming to him outside the box or right inside, and instead of finishing, he dummies the ball and lets it go past. Or sometimes the play gets messed up because he makes that extra touch as opposed to finishing. So it was really nice to finally see him take the opportunity that he was given, and it seemed like he was convinced the moment he had that ball that he was just going to shoot it. He wasn't even thinking about passing, wasn't thinking about stopping and cutting in. That's that killer instinct that we've been wanting to see from him. And I noticed that this game he was playing a little higher up than he has in the past. He wasn't going really towards the midfield to pick up the ball where we've seen him in the past, which was not good, because there were a lot of times where there were centers coming into where he should be and he just wasn't in the right positioning. He did a great job this time. And then just talking about like him and the difference between him and Campana is more of like an area guy, whereas Joseph is more of a guy that's going to be involved in building up of the play. And that's something that Tata Martino, that's really like this is going to be the deciding factor for Tata, which player he's going to go with. It depends what the game needs. He's usually going to start with Joseph. And then if as we've seen, Campana's been coming in late in the game to kind of bring some more like, I think pressure on the defense. But I agree with you. Like I'm not 100% convinced, but I'm happy what I'm seeing. He's taking a step forward, and we'll see what happens between him and Campana. I think right now he has the lead over Campana as far as that starting position. We'll see if Facundo Farias, what happens with that. Again, I mentioned in other pods, Tata said he's an option at the 9. Don't know if that'll happen. You can't really be taking Taylor out right now. He's playing amazing, as we can see, continues to play amazing. So right now it's for me, it's Joseph first, Campana, and then we'll see what happens with Facundo.
Adam, first of all, thank you so much for the super chat. We really appreciate that. Adam says, great win by Miami. Do you see a role for Gregory and Malta when they return from injury? And this is another part of the discussion that we need to have, because I really, really enjoy what I saw from the midfield today, and especially in the first half. It changed a little bit, actually. We saw a positional switch between Kromashki and Arroyo. They flipped sides, but in the last minute of the first half, they switched back, and then going into the second half, they stayed there, and it didn't go back to where it was in the beginning of the game. But what we saw, the balance in midfield between Busquets, Arroyo, and Kromashki not playing as forward as he was, especially defensively, when we saw Miami turn into a 4-4-2 alongside Busquets was Arroyo for most of the time, and they seem to have somewhat of an order now in terms of what they need to do. And Ankit here says Arroyo has been underrated in the absence of Gregory and done a pretty good job. And I think everybody can agree with that. So when you discuss what their roles are going forward, and I'm talking about Gregory and Malta, I think right now, I'm going to go back to what Gian had said a couple episodes ago. If they are to come back within MLS, I think that right now you use them as rotational pieces because you cannot mess with what's going on. You really cannot mess with what we saw tonight, because I thought for a long time that Philadelphia was going to, take this game to Miami. They were not able to in the first half, and a lot of that had to do with the attention that Busquets drew, the pressure that Arroyo was putting on a lot of Philadelphia attackers. I love the way that Dixon Arroyo triggers his own press outside of anybody else with Miami and can go ahead and win a ball in a double team. Like, he does it on a regular, consistent basis, and I saw it multiple times tonight. Kromashki has been so good in attack, can get through a defender or two and then lay off a ball to transition into offense and get to make plays to the final third. I think right now what they have is really good. With Diego Gomez coming off the bench, with David Ruiz coming off the bench, who ends up getting
his best
a goal.
performance, by the way, Diego
Yes,
Gomez.
yes.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. So with that kind of depth, and to think about Gregory and Mota returning from injury, that kind of depth will carry you to the MLS playoffs. And it might even carry you beyond that going into 2024 if they're able to retain all of these guys. Now, I don't know if that's financially possible. We'll go ahead and see, but this has just been outstanding. Do you guys agree that the midfield tonight was better than what we've seen as of late that I've been yelling about the last 3 or 4 episodes on the pod?
Yeah, I would say so. I agree with you. I mean, I would still say maybe, like, if you gave me 100 tries or 50 tries, I'd probably choose Gregory over Arroyo. But I think that Arroyo did a fantastic job tonight. I think it was also his best performance since Messi got here. Mota, I think that Gregory has more, I don't want to say perceived value, but like I can see him being used more because like Sergio's he's been so phenomenal, but you can't expect him to do 90 minutes worth of sprints. Like, you can't, and you need another defensive midfield hold to help with that. So I definitely can see the super sub situation where in the 60th minute we start, unless Robert Taylor and Kromashki are scoring, like 7 goals in the game, and so you cannot take them out. I can see in the 60th minute, we immediately start to see, we can see Mota, we see Campana, we see Gomez, and it's happening quickly. So that, in a situation like tonight, I think was a good example where I agree with you, Gian, that obviously our first half performance was much better than the second half. But I also think we did a good job in the fact that, like, while there were some testy moments, we kept replenishing our team and refocusing so that they couldn't take such advantage of the moment where it was becoming, 99-1 lopsided. And so I think that Tata, I think it was also his most brilliant tactical performance tonight. And I think that he will be able to utilize these players. I think we may see a couple players traded. I don't know. It depends on how the finances are looking. But I agree with you, Austin, that it'd be very difficult to disrupt the starting 11 right now. I can see when it comes to that midfield, especially from a defensive standpoint, how it may be a little bit more up to debate. So we'll see.
Yeah, I think the midfield, to kind of like what you had talked about earlier, Austin, they were more succinct. They were more compact, and they played their roles much better than we've ever seen. You mentioned, I think it was on social media, that even you noticed how it was just that midfield line was just like Arroyo. They kind of switched some of their positions. You know, we were used to Busquets playing more like controlling the center, Arroyo having to push back into the defense a lot of times, Kremaski going up and playing. Whereas at this time they were just more level, right? Like you could see a clear line of three people, which is why I think that we were able to control them much better in that first half, just because there was just so much help for the defense. You know, I didn't see even Yedlin and Alba pushing up as much as they have in the prior games. So I think that from the very beginning, they knew how much of an attacking team Philadelphia was. And they knew that they like to press high. Even their center backs like to take to be in the attacking end. So they push hard with numbers, and we were ready from a defensive standpoint, from a midfield standpoint, to make sure that we were there to close all the gaps, to close all the passing lanes. And that was just beautiful to watch in the first half. And just with Gregory and Mota, what we keep saying is it seems to be the same thing. All of us think it's like, you don't mess with it right now. It's working perfectly. And then what you said, Ashley, like, I can definitely, like, that's a great thing to have, where you're able to bring in fresh legs without losing the performance within the team. That's just like a beautiful thing to have, because a lot of times you're sacrificing performance, but we've got guys in Gregory Mota, and now with Diego Gomez, that can come in, and it's like you're not losing a thing at all. So that's just a great thing to have for Miami, for sure.
Yeah. I'd also quickly say that what's great is that now, outside of, that spectacular goal, this is now 2 matches in a row where Messi has not had to do where it seemed like everything, right? Like, Atlanta, everyone played really well, but I would say these last, shows just how dangerous Miami can be, right? Like Messi, clearly, I would think that in all of these training sessions, all of the talking, he has been a great leader in terms of telling people where to be in their position, making sure everyone's doing the right thing, feeling comfortable. Yeah, exactly what that comment says with Noah Allen, but also just in general, the quality he's bringing from a leadership standpoint. You're seeing it throughout the whole 90 minutes. And when you're in a world where you're beating these top talented teams against us, and Messi is not the one who has to score all 4 goals or even assist all 4 goals, then you're starting to get really dangerous, and you're starting to, see greatness.
Yeah, absolutely. Now we're going to get into a little bit more of the second half here and what we saw, and right after a quick ad break from one of our amazing podcast sponsors.
If you are ready to transform your backyard into a haven of relaxation and luxury, look no further than our amazing podcast sponsor, L'Acqua Azzurra Pool Services. With over 20 years of industry experience, L'Acqua Azzurra is a name you can trust when it comes to services, equipment repairs, and restoration for all things pools. If you're looking in the South Florida area for your pool to be serviced on a month-to-month basis, L'Acqua Azzurra boasts an impressive 5-star rating on Google reviews, and it's a testament to their dedication to customer satisfaction and top-notch service. Also, if you mention Messi & Co., you will get your first month of pool service absolutely free. So don't wait. For pool service, patio renovation, or more, call them now at 954-793-7206 and get a free quote for any project. Thanks, L'Acqua Azzurra.
Yes, thank you, L'Acqua Azzurra, for sponsoring our podcast at Messi & Co. on Twitter. If you guys have not heard it and you're just tuning in for the first time post-game, make sure you go check it out on Twitter. And if you're not already subscribed to the YouTube channel, go ahead and subscribe and get all the notifications for our live shows post-game and for when we actually post our podcast, English and in Spanish, every single week. You can get it on YouTube if you want to watch, or you can listen to it on Apple, Google, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. If you want all the links, head to Twitter at Messi & Co. You will find everything there. We're always promoting it and always pushing it, and content is coming out to you in English and Spanish on a weekly, almost daily basis. So if that's something you're interested in, please go ahead and support us and give us a follow. It would be great. We love talking about Inter Miami and Messi, especially when they're doing things like this, scoring 4 goals on repeat pretty much, which is insane. And now under this, I'm going to put what Miami have really changed here. This is a tale of 2 teams from what we've seen in MLS versus Leagues Cup. Miami and MLS have played 22 matches, and they only scored 22 goals. They're at the bottom of the table. And now Miami with Messi in Leagues Cup are only 1 goal shy of that 22 goal margin in just 6 matches played. The offense is clicking at a level that Miami have never had in their history. And as Ashley mentioned, it's not all in part due to Messi's direct goal contributions. Miami scored 3 without Messi involved. And last game against Charlotte, Miami did the same exact thing. 3 goals were scored without Messi involved. Granted, he did score an absolute beautiful goal from 30 yards out, which we can talk about as well, which probably set the precedent a little bit more than the Joseph Martinez goal because they doubled the league early. And, it probably just put Philadelphia in a scenario where they're like, what the heck are we supposed to do? And it sets the tone a little bit. But then Miami go ahead and score 2 more. And again, it was without direct goal contributions from Lionel Messi. He elevates this team to a level that you would not think that they could get to. Obviously, Sergio Busquets and Jordi Alba help. But of course, the guys like Robert Taylor, the guys like Benjamin Kremeski, the guys even like Joseph Martinez, who needs a little bit of a resurgence, is now able to get there. And I know Taylor Twellman made that direct quote about, LeBron James and Michael Jordan, but those guys were young at that time. They hadn't necessarily cemented themselves as the greatest players of all time, as Lionel Messi now is. Messi is still doing it at a finer age than those guys were. He's doing it at a point that you would call the latter part of his career, and he's making this team look like absolute world beaters against competition, Philadelphia, who was supposed to look even more than competent. They were supposed to test Inter Miami. We had even thought that, if you listen to our podcast, we had thought that they would go out and really challenge Miami. This could be a tightly contested game. And the only thing that this game was tightly contested in was physicality and foul numbers, because I think after the game, they committed anywhere between 15 and 18 fouls. Philadelphia, that's almost a foul every 5 minutes. That's where they tried to set the tone, and it still didn't work. Miami's offense is on another level right now. You can see it below with the numbers. How much of this is going to continue? Because it's at first it didn't seem sustainable. Messi goes and scores a free kick against Cruz Azul. Then they score 4 against Atlanta. Then the game against Orlando, they score 3, but it was a little more physical. Then they score 4 against Dallas, and they're scoring 4 again twice in a row. Going into the U.S. Open Cup semifinal on August 23rd, going into the final, whether it's at Dry Fink or Nashville, that game is probably about to kick off. We'll see what happens there. Going into the final on Saturday, though, U.S. Open Cup semifinal on the 23rd, and then back to MLS in anywhere between the 26th and the 30th. Games and games and games and games and games. Is this sustainable? Is Messi and co., not us, the actual team, that good?
I mean, what are you supposed to do? Like, as an opponent, I mean, what do you try to shut down Messi? Like, you can't do that. And if you try to, you just leave everybody else open.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of been one of the biggest things that Messi has brought to the team, is not only the goals that he's scoring, but just the fact that just lanes literally open up for everybody around him. Like, we've seen him just wherever he goes, I see 2-3 defenders looking at him, and they forget about everybody else. So that I don't think that stops. I think that another thing that's kind of like the intangible is just the confidence that he brings to everybody. Look, I'm seeing players make passes that I've never seen them make the entire season. I'm seeing like combo plays. Like I sometimes I feel like I'm watching like Barca play from Spain, like the just the little touches and the give and goes and the way that they like on the different ways that they associate with each other on the wings, where you have our fullbacks associating with our wings, where they overlap each other, and it's just like insane. And I forgot what game it was where Messi got subbed out. I can't remember right now.
Atlanta.
But Atlanta, he got subbed out, and like
for Robbie Robinson, by the way,
yeah,
which I think might have been the biggest downgrade in substitutions in sports history.
Yeah, but what was crazy was
Robbie Robinson. Don't say that.
But that happened.
Was legendary.
Yeah, no, but that happened, and then like it's like everybody forgot how to play. It was weird. Like it wasn't like, okay, maybe they're not going to score or whatever, but like their passes they were messing up on their passes, like easy passes. They were losing the ball, which to me was like, okay, these people didn't lose their skill from one moment to the next. It's just that confidence. When you see that number 10 on your field, Messi, like it gives you confidence as a player. So I think that these are things that we're going to keep building on. And I don't think there's any changing that for Miami. Like, Look, today we made like I thought it was going to be a tight game. I made a prediction of like 2-1 maybe, but man, like if you're not like we feared this team a little bit, knowing that they're, you know, they were one of the top teams in the MLS. They score a lot of goals. They're very they attack like crazy, and yet somehow we pull off a 4-1 win. Like at this point, I feel like this is who we are. Like it's not, this isn't just for the moment. I think we're building on something special here, and I think that is going to translate into the future for sure.
Yeah, I'd also say that the training, you know, we don't see it. We don't see all the training. We don't see the training every single day. The one-touch passing and everything that you're starting to see be fulfilled on the pitch. I mean, you know, what him, Busquets, and Alba bring to every single training session, every conversation that they have, every film session, all of it is so invaluable that I think you're starting to see it on the pitch, where you're starting to see people fill these spaces and getting these beautiful one-touch passes or passes into space, and your confidence increases because you know someone's going to be on the end of it. You know, I'd say before with Inter Miami, with our suffering roster when he had a lot of injuries, things like that, it's just the spacing is worlds different, because just like Jorge just said in the comment, is that when Messi, he attracts the space, Busquets attracts that space, and then you're having these other players be able to find those open pockets, because I bet you Messi is instilling confidence every single day and saying, if I'm not there, you will get the pass and you can finish and make the difference. And wow, are we seeing it with every single moment? I mean, that goal, Alba's goal was fantastic too. I mean, that's vintage Barca for sure.
Yeah, and I think, you know, that first goal that Joseph scored is, you know, the golden example of everything that you guys just described. And we talked about it just in the beginning of the show. The attention from Gazdag onto Sergio Busquets, the attention from two other Philadelphia defenders onto Messi, giving Krivstov the time and space to play a 40, 50-yard pass over the top to an ongoing Joseph Martinez in between, not even in between, just past a central defender. It was so easy for them to go ahead and make that play. And, you know, it changed a little bit for Philadelphia. After that, it was an immediate tactical change, especially after the Messi goal. Things changed a little bit, but even then, there was still so much attention on Busquets from guys like Gazdag and McGlynn in the midfield when he got subbed on, because there needs to be. You cannot go ahead and give these guys a time and space. But now, with the elevation of play and quality from the other Inter Miami players, it makes Miami that much more lethal than we've ever seen, because they actually have time to go ahead and play passes, the one touches, the over the top through balls, just the connections and the triangles, and the way they shift the ball from the back to front so simply and easily is it's insane. It's insane what we're seeing. It's not something we've ever seen with Inter Miami before. Now, another thing with Lionel Messi is, in my opinion, I know that I think that Messi should have more assists, and I put this on the other attackers. There was a play in this one, I don't know if you guys will remember it, but there was a play in this one where Messi had taken the ball from about 40 yards out to the top of the area of the 18, and he had both Joseph Martinez and Benjamin Kremeshki making almost the same exact run. Joseph let it go into Kremeshki, it got a little bit too deep, and then Joseph drifted towards the back post. Kremeshki then just sailed the ball over the top. If you're running alongside Lionel Messi, you need to expect everything. You can expect to pass at any moment into any type of space as long as you get there. With those two guys being a little bit crowded, and it's going to come with time. Again, this team is brand new. They've had 6 games in Leagues Cup. They've had, obviously it's probably been about a month or less than a month. I think Messi debuted on July 21st. So it's been less than a month since he's been playing competitively with Inter Miami. And there are guys that will have to get acclimated to the way he plays and where he's going to put you, because he will find you if you're there. We've seen the goal scoring from Lionel Messi, and now it's come down to the playmaking. That will improve. And if that improves, guys like Joseph Martinez, guys like Campana will be able to excel in all different facets of the game. We've already seen it with Robert Taylor a little bit. They had a connection really early on, but now Robert Taylor is assisting himself. So there are so many different aspects to Lionel Messi's game that he brings to Inter Miami, and it's exactly why they are so successful. Jim Curtin could not figure it out. There was nothing in Jim Curtin's game plan from minute 1 to minute 90 that went ahead and said that they were going to stop Lionel Messi and Inter Miami. It just wasn't going to happen. Now, in the second half, I think Philadelphia did really well to create chances and get in front of goal, but it was still a little bit sloppy, and they weren't able to hit the target as many times as they probably would have liked. I think Drake Callender was only forced into 3 saves tonight, and if you look at the shots in general for Philadelphia, it probably the conversion rate probably should have been a lot higher from shots to shots on target. So I think there you when you get teams in a hole, this team has been Inter Miami and Messi have been scoring extremely early game after game, and you get teams in a goal drought, and you rattle them from minute one. It makes it a lot harder for them to get back onto the front foot, and that's another reason why Messi has been so successful with Inter Miami, and it's exactly what they're going to have to do in a final, whether it's against Monterrey at DRV Stadium, which will be easier to set the tone, or whether it's in Nashville against a team that has the MVP of MLS and possibly 2-time MVP of MLS after this season with Hani Mukhtar. We'll see what happens there. That game probably just kicked off. I'll have to look it up in just a second, but man, it's been unbelievable what we've seen. And if there's anything else you guys want to go ahead and touch on from what you saw tonight, just mention it and go, and we'll continue this amazing conversation. 4-1 Inter Miami against Philadelphia Union on to the Leagues Cup final.
I think that, like, just to your point, what you said about, Messi and the assists, and I agree with you. It's going to take time for them to get to know Messi. I think that we've kind of like forgotten, just because of everything that we've seen, we've forgotten like this is all new. Like, you watch this team, and if you don't know the history, you would think that they've been playing together for years, but there's still things here and there that need to gel. And I think that with time, that's definitely going to happen. And I also feel like there's sometimes some players like Kremaski or Joseph or Taylor, like, they don't realize that they have to, like, sometimes just finish whatever pass Messi pushed them, and they try to make that extra pass. Sometimes they're just looking back at Messi. So, like, they kind of need to understand, like, okay, there's sometimes I need to put that ball right back to Messi so he can finish, and sometimes no. Like, this is your job. You finish that. So those are things, again, just come with time. But I've noticed, like, that extra pass, like, no, I'm giving it back to him as if Messi's expecting it all the time, which I thought that was kind of funny sometimes. But yeah,
it'll take some time. I mean, it granted, it's so crazy how spoiled we are, guys, because Miami again have scored 21 goals in 6 games, and we're picking apart little things about how they can be better on offense and whatnot.
But that's what greatness does. That's what greatness does. It brings it out. Like Messi and Co. We're saying the and Co. It's becoming stronger and stronger, and we're also forgetting Benjamin Kremaski is 18 years old. I think he knew he screwed up that pass back with when it was him, Messi, and Joseph, and you can see how upset it made him. And it helps you remember sometimes he's human. I mean, Lionel Messi is double his age. He was born and Messi was 18. Like, that's kind of crazy to think about, you know what I mean? And so I think we're seeing the pursuit of greatness from Messi trickling down to every single person on the pitch, trickling down to the organization, to the supporters. Part of why I think if the game ends up being in Nashville, so be it. I think we have the quality and we've been playing amazing and we can win there. But there's something really to be said about hosting a final in South Florida and starting to see instantaneously what greatness can do to the community and to the organization. So it'll be really interesting to see how the rest of the night shakes out. And then that final on Saturday. Will Inter Miami finally get its silverware?
Which would be insane. Jose here says that his concern so far is the center backs, and I think that we all agree that has been the weaker point. If you want, Jose, we had a really good discussion between us three on the podcast earlier this week about the partnership between Krivstov and Kamal Miller and the insertion of Tomas Aviles, who did not travel tonight to Philadelphia, but Miami have just acquired the international roster spot for him, so they can go ahead and have him registered, and he can start playing competitive matches. It probably won't be the final, but it will be going into the U.S. Open Cup and to MLS. And there are some mistakes to be made, and I don't know anything. I'm not going to speak on Sergio Ramos. I have no information there, but I do think that it would be very difficult financially to make that happen. And I think Miami actually will have a lot of financial decisions to make going into 2024, but we'll get there when we get there, because right now they have one of the deepest rosters that MLS has ever seen, even Liga MX as well. So I do think that the center backs are a good discussion to have, and we can get there with both of those guys. with Thomas Avila's and his debut imminent after the final, where do you see the standing of Tata Martino's side, whether it's tactics or player personnel changes? How do you view that, especially given what we saw tonight?
No idea. And I know we're
fair answer. That's a fair answer.
We're supposed to be giving our, commentary, and maybe Gian has a little bit more, but I would say that the back line was great tonight. A couple individual mistakes here and there, like Jose very correctly said, but everyone was covering everyone. I think it was DeAndre's best game defensively of the tournament. And I think that, they're all a big part about, I think, defensive lines and center backs. And we talked about this last chat was it's all about getting to know each other and having that relationship, right? And being able to cover one another's backs. I mean, look, we've seen with PSG over the last few years, sometimes just trying to have 11 of the most expensive players on the pitch, or, the ones with the biggest names. It's almost like the expression of like pressing all the buttons when you're playing a video game. It sometimes doesn't always work out. That's not me to say that I don't think that Sergio Ramos would be an improvement, because I do. But like we were saying earlier, I mean, the starting 11 and just the construction of the team, being able to, throughout the whole 90 plus minutes, being able to have great players come in for almost any position and keep the game balanced, keep all three phases of the game, all three lines of the game balance, and be able to have Messi keep his energy for the full 90 minutes without having to expend it all at once. You're seeing really great tactics and construction. And that's why I said, I have no idea what Tata Martino is going to do, because at this point, who are you switching for who at what cost? Is it worth the gelling? Is it worth, we have over 2 years left of Messi's contract. There's a lot of money, obviously, to be played with. I think it's right now really anyone's guess.
Yeah, I think that defensive line was. Don't tell me somebody scored. Is that what you're gonna say?
Hani Mukhtar just scored an absolute banger. Absolute banger for Nashville, up 1-0 in the 12th minute. Oh my!
No.
That's not good for us. We don't want that.
That's not good for us. Don't look so happy.
That was a beautiful goal. That was a beautiful goal. I can't even, man. If you guys have a second,
I'm looking at my phone.
It just happened, so it might take some time for it to get uploaded. But there aren't many better goals to be scored. I mean,
where was it from?
The corner of the 18. He curled it all the way across to the side netting. The keeper had no chance. I'm in shock. So with that said, if Nashville retain the lead for the next 80 minutes and beat Monterrey in the semifinal, Miami will be headed to Nashville to play the final there, rather than having the chance to host it against Monterrey if Monterrey were to pull off the win. They
did just do it to LAFC.
And they did do it to LAFC. Actually went up 2-0, and Monterrey came back to beat them. This is just one. Hani Mukhtar has been one of the best players in the tournament. I think he's got like 3 goals now and 4 assists. He's been outstanding. So Nashville, again, will pose another threat for Inter Miami, and Monterrey would as well. I think that this is a really good semifinal going on that Miami are going to be watching very, very closely. Literally no idea who's going to go ahead and come out of this one. But what an absolute worldie of a goal.
Tire each other out, right?
Oh, that would be great. I want to make another note, too, is that don't get so discouraged if Nashville do win this one, because Miami still have a chance to host the final. Do not forget that if Miami beat Cincinnati on August 23rd, the U.S. Open Cup final could be hosted if Houston beat Real Salt Lake at home. So it's a little bit of an opposite semifinal thing going on, because if Houston are the home team playing in the semifinal, Nashville are the home team in the playing semifinal, and if Houston win, they don't have the priority over Miami as Nashville do. So a lot of different permutations that you can look at, but Miami's still with a chance to host actually 2 finals in the next month, which is absolutely insane. And MLS will kick off. So many games going on. It's just been insane.
I just wanted to mention one thing that we were talking about, that defensive line, really quickly, because something that was interesting to me is we were trying to figure out like who would Thomas Aviles come in for, right? Like if he was going to take the place of one of the center backs, would it be Kamal Miller? Would it be Kritzov? Like who would that be? And I had initially thought, one of the things that has kind of plagued us also in the cornerback position is the fact that our fullbacks go really high up, and we'd get caught in a lot of counters. And our cornerbacks, and more so Kristoff, wasn't fast enough to really keep up with those counters, and that was hurting us tremendously. So I was thinking Aviles could come in for Kristoff and take his place, but he was pretty solid today, and he was putting some really nice passes today. So that's something like, so I mean, I don't know if that necessarily changes something, but we saw a really solid defensive line, and I'm hoping that whoever we end up playing, you know, whether it's Nashville or Monterrey, because at least from Monterrey and what we saw, they had 20 shots.
Yeah.
Against what was it that they played? It
was LAFC.
LAFC. They had 20 shots. So they're going to be a team that's going to be, man, like pounding on the offensive end. So the defense is definitely something that we're going to have to look into. But because I mean, right now, I believe he wasn't even called up, we said, right? So he's not on the roster.
He's not on the Leagues Cup roster. Yeah. No, I don't believe.
Which so. I thought for a second Facundo Farias was going to come in. They were talking about him warming up. So,
in my opinion, I think Facundo Farias should have made his debut tonight in preparation for the final, because I don't think it's smart to debut any player in a final unless your name is Lionel Messi. If he could have gotten some minutes tonight under his belt, it just increases your depth going in. Not that depth has been any kind of an issue, but you don't know what's going to happen. So I think that Facundo Farias not playing tonight was a little bit of a shocker to me. I was waiting for him to come on. We saw the substitutions late with Chris McVeigh and Noah Allen. Thought Farias would be a part of it, but he wasn't. And I want to give another quick update. The goal was just ruled offside. I don't know how. I'm struggling to understand it, but it's good for Inter Miami because the game is still 0-0. Monterrey just need to win, and the game can be held on Saturday in Drive Pink Stadium. So 0-0 still in Nashville. Still do yourself a favor and go find that goal, because my word, what
I keep refreshing MLS Twitter and not getting it. That's probably why, because
they probably won't post it. Yeah, they probably won't post it now because of the offside. Somebody will have it at some point, but it's a bummer for Nashville. Thumbs up for Inter Miami. Game's still 0-0 in Nashville. Again, if you're just now tuning in, this the other Leagues Cup semifinal is going on. Monterrey versus Nashville. If Nashville win, Nashville will host the Leagues Cup final in Nashville. And if Monterrey win, Miami will be waiting for them in Drive Pink Stadium on Saturday. So August 19th, I don't know anything about tickets just yet because obviously we don't know anything about where it's going to be held. But if you're a season ticket holder or if you are a deposit holder, stay tuned to your emails if Monterrey finish this off tonight, because I'm sure it's going to be absolutely insane. We've talked about the atmospheres at Drive Pink Stadium and how crazy they've been. Hosting a final is something that's never been done before, and they're going to probably just elevate it to a level that we can't even fathom at the moment. So eyes tuned on that game.
Did we mention that we secured a spot to the Concacaf Champions?
Yes and no. So yes, Miami have secured a spot to the Concacaf Champions
Cup. That's awesome.
Which is awesome. It's amazing. It's the first time they've actually done it in their history. And we talked about it a little bit on the pod yesterday about how, you know, for 4 years, we thought that this should be a goal of the club to like take US Open Cup seriously, qualify through there, because they never came close to qualifying through winning MLS, winning Supporters Shield, or winning the opposite conference rank. It's never even been close. And now, just by securing a final spot in 6 matches, Lionel Messi has qualified Inter Miami for CONCACAF Champions Cup. And Gian, I don't know if you heard as well, but if Miami go ahead and win CONCACAF Champions Cup in 2024, the Club World Cup is what they will qualify for in 2025. And that's being held in America. So again,
the world is watching, we're seeing it. I'm seeing all these great tweets every single game about how, compared to other leagues, like the fact that MLS is putting out this continuous content, it's fantastic. And the world is able to watch in real time the growth of the club. Messi's, his fantastic goals, his fantastic play. You're seeing all these other players getting their recognition, getting their name thrown in the spotlight. And it's like, it's becoming a win-win-win for everyone.
Absolutely. I'm going to address Mo here. The CONCACAF Champions Cup is pretty much the North American equivalent to the UEFA Champions League. If you know about European football, the top teams from each individual league in UEFA, which is Europe, qualify for the Champions League in any sort of matter. CONCACAF Champions Cup is the same way, just a different confederation and a different continent. And there are certain ways for MLS teams to qualify. It was either to win MLS Cup, to win the Supporters Shield, which is the Supporters Shield as being the best regular season team. And if you don't win either of those, if you are the team in the opposite conference of the Supporters Shield champions and the top of there, that is also an entry. And if you win US Open Cup, which is similar to, let's say, the FA Cup in England, you also get a shot into the CONCACAF Champions Cup. I think now if you win FA Cup in England, you actually get a spot in the Europa League, if I'm not mistaken. So something similar to that. And it's a continental competition between North American teams that can be from USA, Mexico, and all the Central American teams as well, from those countries. It doesn't just stop at USA and Mexico. We saw a Haitian team shock an MLS team earlier on this year. Philadelphia bowed out of the tournament. So it's a huge competition that we want Miami to be a part of. It's something that everybody who's covered Inter Miami and been a fan of Inter Miami, we've wanted them to be a part of, just because it puts them on a global stage. Now, Messi lacing up puts them on a global stage, but we've seen the attention that they've been getting with Leagues Cup, which has now been a continental competition between the Mexican and the American teams. But the CONCACAF Champions Cup puts it on another level. And if you win that, you win the Club World Cup, where you can actually go ahead and play against the likes of CONCACAF Champions League winners. I believe last year Seattle had a chance to play against Real Madrid at some point. It's been insane what we have going on here in America with Lionel Messi.
Think of the possibilities of what we can win right now. Like the things that we have on our plate is just insane. You're talking about the Leagues Cup, the US Open Cup, the MLS the actual league is still mathematically in play. Then you're talking about the Concacaf Champions.
Guys, Messi can win a treble this year.
Yeah,
Messi can win a treble this year. The North American treble. Come on.
Yeah, and I'm just waiting for an invite to Libertadores. That would make my heart complete, seeing Inter Miami in the Libertadores, Messi playing in La Bombonera in Argentina. Like, these are things that were like never realistic, and now like things are lining up for us. And the more success we see, the bigger like these things seem to be more realistic. It's just a great time.
You're starting to like the parity of the leagues around the world. I mean, you know, obviously there's been a lot of, I would say, like, you know, maybe downside or skepticism or whatever with the Saudi league that I personally agree with. Obviously, I think it's not, you know, for the best, but what it is doing is that it's making Europe not the only place where top talent can play. And I think when you do that, and you start to be able to have these great continental tournaments and the best teams making it, like we said, the Club World Cup, but you're starting to see amazing players throughout the globe and having soccer continue to grow and increase in all of these different places, where you're not just saying, oh, whoever wins the UEFA league, like, you know, Real Madrid, like they're going to win everything. It's not even going to be close. Now you're starting to see the fact that, oh, wow, everyone's bringing something to the table, and it just parity makes it so much more fun as a consumer. And I imagine as a player too.
Yeah, it's been an instant impact from Lionel Messi. And if you haven't already heard, Miami have qualified for that CONCACAF Champions Cup just by making the final. You don't have to worry about coming.
By the way,
yeah, unbelievable, right? Oh God, and I cannot believe it was disallowed. I think that is a ridiculous decision, because the goalkeeper was already making his attempt to save the ball. It was not touched by the attacker that was in an offside position, and he wasn't blocking the view of the goal. So I don't understand how he disrupted the play, but we move, and oh my God, Nashville almost just scored as I was saying that. I thought they were about to say it, and it was going to be perfect timing.
You're seeming very excited about this. Like, I think we need to launch an investigation.
I'm not rooting for Nashville at all, but the goal really just put me in a position that was like, holy moly, that was spectacular. And now that should have been a goal. Nashville should have another one. Monterrey is still in it. We could be sitting at Drive-In Stadium on Saturday still to this point. Keep in tune for if you know, Monterrey can actually pull this off. It would be outstanding for Miami. If so, a conversation that also maybe had, it might be too quick notice, but Jorge Mas has been very vocal in previous conversations that I've personally had with him and with other media members, that for a US Open Cup final, if they were to host, they would possibly move that to a venue like Hard Rock Stadium. I don't know how much time there is for them to go ahead and secure that, because we're not going to know if Miami are hosting until probably 11:30, 12 midnight tonight. if they're going to be hosting a final. But if that's the case, that's another conversation to be had. Can they
but
move
is
that?
it Dolphins preseason?
Oh, is there a game Saturday? I wonder if there. So then there's a barrier, and I guess that won't be. Monterrey almost just scored. This game, guys, tune into this game. It's been really, really good end-to-end stuff, and we're waiting for Miami's opponent.
This would be great, not just for Inter, but for the Concacaf to have the Mexican MLS final. That's exciting.
And it's not something that normally happens in Concacaf Champions Cup either. It's mostly been Mexican teams absolutely dominating that competition. We've had one Concacaf Champions Cup winner in MLS in a very over 20 years, I believe, and that was Seattle the year prior. I think that it would be insane for this is exactly what League Cup and the owners would have wanted, to have a Mexican team face off against an MLS team and to do it against Lionel Messi.
And in a very heavily Latin American market.
Absolutely, to do it in South Florida would be outstanding.
Yeah, and there have been a lot of complaints from the Mexican teams about the champion. The Leagues Cup itself and the way it's been run and everything. But I think that if they end up with a Mexican team in the final, that's definitely going to kind of change some mindsets and opinions on this. So it's definitely good for the Leagues Cup moving forward for sure.
For sure.
And to be fair, I want it to be an Inter Miami home game because I want it to be at Drive Pink. I think it'll be awesome. But if there was ever another stadium to have it at, it's the Monterrey Stadium.
Yeah.
That is the sickest thing I think that exists in world football, honestly.
Yeah. It's man, it's going to be insane what happens. I think that nobody from Inter Miami side is going to sleep tonight. They're going to see what happens in the semifinal. I think they'll all be tuned in, whether they're on the way to the airport, leaving and coming back to Miami from Chester, Pennsylvania, or what. But this game, this was the highest pressure game in Inter Miami history. Bar none, there has been nothing like it. They've never played in a semifinal before, and with the win, not only did they qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, but now they have the first ever chance. They're 90 minutes away from having real silverware for the first time in history. Yeah. That is the epitome of the Lionel Messi effect. It's only taken 6 games for them to put themselves in that position. Now, Lionel Messi did come in a really good position because not only was it a brand new competition that he got to start in, I believe that Monterrey just hit the crossbar there. Not only did Lionel Messi come in to start a brand new competition, but he's also come in for the U.S. Open Cup semifinals as well. When it comes to MLS, we're going to have a lot of fun talking about that on Messi & Co. Make sure you stay tuned here on the YouTube channel and on Spotify, Apple, Google, wherever you get your podcasts, because they've got to win about 9 games in 12 to qualify for the playoffs. That's to be the average last place team to make the playoffs. They need 27 more points just about. And it's going to be, I'm not even going to say hard to do. I was saying
that seemed way more far-fetched before this
it
cup.
Did. And now I'm like, how are they not winning 12 out of 12? I mean, I think it's on the cards. Let's take one more quick word from one of our sponsors here on the podcast. Again, you can check us out on Twitter at Messi & Co. You can find the podcast and subscribe to it. Make sure you rate and review it as well. It does a huge, huge favor on Apple, on Spotify, and on Google. If you're watching the post-game show, not live, but later on, we'll have it in the description. All the links will be there. But let's get one more quick word from our sponsor, and we will be right back.
Are you ready to transform your space into a masterpiece? Introducing Mosaics, your destination for stones and more. Mosaics is a family-owned business serving the community for over 20 years. With the best quality porcelain, ceramic tiles, and high-end mosaics featuring unique modern designs, Mosaics has everything you need. Dedicated customer service, wholesale distributors, and a passion for excellence. Make sure you visit mosaics.com today to turn your vision into a reality.
All right, we have a quick note here. Dolphins play in Houston this Saturday. So if Moss can get it done with Stephen Ross to go ahead and make something happen for Hard Rock, I don't know how quick they can make that happen, whether because they only have 72 to 96 hours really to secure it, but it would be insane. We have a Messi fan here from Bangladesh. Supercalifragilistic says amazing game. Messi is not from this planet. I believe that we all agree that this has just been absolutely insane. He will win the treble. It's well, I don't know if it's a plan for that. He's doing outstanding things. It's just, I mean, man, what a time we're having right now.
I just wanna touch on that comment that it's a business, because I think that he's alluding to this is all scripted and the MLS might be, or Concacaf might be pushing for this. And I just want to say, because I've seen this touched on other outlets as well. Like, Messi doesn't need help. I just want to let you know that. Like, Messi needs no help from anybody. So I know that
if that Dallas game was scripted, then
yeah. Like, I understand that it's, and I will agree, it's in the best interest, obviously, of the MLS for Messi to be doing all this. So I'll agree with that. But I'll just disagree in that there's nobody pushing or doing anything, putting their hand to manipulate anything. Messi needs no help from anybody, and we're just witnessing Messi magic on his own. So
I'm not sure
to see where it keeps going.
Yeah, I'm not sure how to script a goal from 30, 32 yards out into the bottom corner. I don't know how you do that. I don't know how to script a free kick goal to, make it 3-3 against FC Dallas. I don't know how to script a free kick goal that goes in the top corner against Cruz Azul. That is quality, and quality at its finest. You aren't able to put that down on paper and make it happen. Also from Argentina, of course. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Live post-game, Inter Miami 4, Philadelphia Union 1. Miami making their first ever cup final, or final just in general, in their history, bar the Breezeway Airlines Carolina Challenge Cup that happened in preseason a couple of years ago with
Breezeway. That's what it was. I couldn't think of the
Breezeway Airlines Carolina Challenge Cup. I'll never forget. I have a shirt actually with the winning team holding the trophy on it, which is, of course, you just have to have those little fun things and gimmicks like that. Man, what a game.
Really quick before I forget, I heard, and I don't know, I think I heard it correctly. It was an off comment. Taylor Twellman said that this week he was hosting Phil Neville on his podcast.
Oh,
so I think that will be interesting to hear from his point of view, how everything kind of shook out in the end, if he got maybe the full fair shot with a full roster, and what he thinks about the team now. I think it will be very interesting to hear his perspective on it.
I do agree with that, but all respect to Phil Neville. He treated everybody outstandingly. He is no Tata Martino, and at the same time, there were changes needed. We saw the mediocrity from Inter Miami. They struggled to make the playoffs. It took them a number 10 like Alejandro Pozuelo to get them there, and go ahead and make that run. And now, obviously, with Messi coming in and the 6 players that they've added this summer, you weren't going to go ahead and change the entire culture of Inter Miami without doing it from the top down. So I think that it was a necessity. And I wouldn't necessarily claim any unfairness on Phil Neville. I think that it was deserved, just given the fact that he had the chances to go from year to year and make the changes and make the adjustments. Now, nobody can prepare for the adjustment of Lionel Messi, but Chris Henderson and the ownership had Phil Neville's backing. They traded for Kamal Miller. They got the allocation money they needed to stay under the sanctions and whatnot. They got players like Higuain early on, and they brought in Pozuelo to get them to the playoffs. So there was a lot of things that they did to back Phil Neville, and he just wasn't able to do it. And he's put them in a position now where they're last place, the worst team in MLS.
True.
It's a completely different team. Now, if you want to speak of unfairness to coaches, the only thing that Inter Miami have ever done, in my opinion, was do Diego Alonso wrongly, because Diego Alonso got into the playoffs in year 1, and right after that season, fired him almost immediately, and they kind of failed their coaching search in 2019 going into 2020, and Diego Alonso was kind of just like a back option, and he didn't come in with players that he chose. They were already there. Players were signing. Inter Miami had 2 DPs before they had a head coach. So if you want to talk about unfairness to coaches, Phil Neville is not it. Now, everybody is pleased with Tata Martino and Lionel Messi. Absolutely everybody. And I do believe that they have made the right choices. You guys agree with that?
I agree.
I hope so. Yeah.
I mean, they basically built the team around him, with bringing obviously Busquets and Alba, his old coach, now bringing players that I'm sure Messi had a hand in picking, Gomez and Farias and Aviles. Like, there's no doubt. So they're building this team around him. And I mean, when you have Messi, you basically game plan around him as well and make sure that everything fits his play style. So I mean, right now everything is set for Messi to excel, and this coach Tata Martino I think came to a dream job that any coach would have wanted. Like,
I don't think you can walk into a better situation. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Tata Martino actually coached one game that had nothing to do with Messi and co. They weren't even there yet. He played all the academy young kids. I think 6 academy graduates came on and played in that game. I don't remember if it was DC or if it was the Columbus game at home. I can't.
I think it was Columbus.
I think that was the game right before Leagues Cup, right?
It might have been DC. No, it was St. Louis. It was St. Louis away. That's what it was. It was July 15th, St. Louis away. Right. That's what it was. That was Tata Martino's first game. They lost that game. But then 6 days later on Friday night, July 21st, is when Messi debuts, and that's where they've gone on this streak of not only 6 wins in 6, but 21 goals in 6 games, and 9 of those are by way of Lionel Messi, not even accounting for the assists that he's had early on as well. He's probably en route to becoming Inter Miami's top goal scorer, if not by the end of the year, by the beginning of 2024. I think Gonzalo Higuain holds that with 27, if I'm not mistaken. He's actually tied with Joseph Martinez with 9. Campana is up there as well, I think with like 16 or 17. It's not going to take Lionel Messi a lot of time to cement himself as a quote-unquote Inter Miami great. I think he did that as soon as he stepped in the field, but in terms of statistics, it won't take him very long either. It helps that it's a younger club, but this is just what you come to expect with a player of that quality coming to a team that has not been that successful over the last 4 seasons. They've not advanced in MLS playoffs. They've never won a game in MLS playoffs. They've never had a top 5 finish in the Eastern Conference. They've never made it to the quarterfinal of a U.S. Open Cup. And now you look at a team that is in the semifinal of a U.S. Open Cup and is now in the final of a brand new competition, the Leagues Cup, and has finally qualified for the Concacaf Champions Cup. Mikhail has come on here and told me that's 29 for Pipa. So 20 goals away for Lionel Messi. He scored 9 in 6. By that rate, in 7 more games, Lionel Messi has the goal scoring record if he keeps this up. That's insane. That's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I mean, how many games does he theoretically have left this season? So he's got 12 in the league, 2 U.S. Open Cup possibly, plus 1 final. So you're talking about 15 games left to. Yeah, he could possibly have a lot of goals. By
somebody can go ahead and do the math on that. That at this rate, he is.
What is he like? Maybe averaging 1.5 goals. Like if we do the numbers, maybe
right?
Something like that.
Yeah, it'd be one. Yeah, something like that. So I think with 15 games left, you can go ahead.
You're talking about like 22, 23 more goals at this rate by the end of the season. Like
22 more goals. So to add on to 9 already,
to
finish with over 30 goals, which would break
if he keeps up this pace, which I wouldn't doubt. But yeah.
I would even say what's the craziest thing is that with this pace and everything, I mean, he's done spectacular things and scored spectacular, but like I said earlier, especially these last 2 games, he hasn't had to do everything. So hopefully it means a lot of, longevity and consistency to be able to kind of keep smashing these records and keep this performance at such a high level.
Yeah. Somebody says that I think it's Mikhail says that he will not play all the matches due to Argentina. So that could be true. I'm not sure what those dates fall on.
It's the 7th and the 12th of September. So I think that the Atlanta game on the 15th is in jeopardy. And the game, I can't remember. The Atlanta one's the only one I know off the top of my head. The game on the 9th at home against Sporting Kansas City. So I think he'll be in Argentina camp then. Unfortunately for us, Gian, that game, I think it's September 7th, is against Ecuador to open up the CONMEBOL qualifiers.
It's one of the few times over the next couple of years that I'll be rooting against Messi. Other than that, I'm Team Messi. When it comes to Ecuador playing in Argentina, because we actually play in Argentina, I unfortunately will be rooting against Messi. But
Messi might be playing against, two Inter Miami names with that Ecuadorian side, with Dixon Arroyo and Leonardo Campana. I don't know how much Dixon has played with the Ecuadorian national team, but given the stage that he's on now and the performances he's putting on, it's hard not for the Ecuadorian Federation to give him the attention that he absolutely deserves, and possibly a call up to those qualifying games. We'll see how that goes and cover all the international call ups when we get to it. Ashley, headed out. Thank you so much for joining us. We still have 353 people in the live, but everybody, thank Ashley for her contributions here, and make sure you check her out on Twitter and on the English side of Messi & Co podcast. Ashley, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ashley.
Viva Inter Miami.
Indeed. Man, Gian, this is I have got this game on in the corner. I'm all over the place. It's been end to end.
Monterrey, from what I've seen, I'm trying to, obviously we're on the pod. I'm trying to sneak a look every now and then over to the game, but it feels like Monterrey has possession of the ball. They're doing a good job of keeping possession of the ball.
Right, but Nashville has been quick to counter and press the goalkeeper, which is one of their strengths. I think that Nashville would be a tough opponent. They've scraped by, and I seriously mean they've scraped by in this competition, beating Cincinnati on penalties and winning their last match on penalties as well. When it looked against Club America, it looked like they had lost on penalties. I don't know if you watched this game, but I was watching from my bed on my phone Club America win on penalties. I watched it happen. The game was over. The ref blew the whistle, and I turned off my phone. I started scrolling on Twitter a couple minutes later, and I see that Nashville has won. I thought somebody just made an error. And then I keep seeing Nashville has won, Nashville has won. And I was like, wait, excuse me, what? Turn it back on. They went to VAR after like 5 minutes, saw that the Club America goalkeeper was off of his line, redid the penalties, and Nashville ended up winning. So seriously, by the skin of their teeth, Nashville has advanced in this competition. They're a gritty, fightful team with a lot of quality. They have Sam Surridge, who they just signed as a DP, coming off the bench as well. And he scored in 2 appearances that he's come off the bench. So
who are you more afraid of? Who are you more afraid of, though? Like not taking out of consideration the location of where we would be playing, just from a team perspective. Yeah. Who are you more afraid of?
I think Monterrey is probably more dangerous. I think that they're a premier Mexican side for a reason. The spending that they have compared to, the teams in MLS in general is a lot higher. And with players like Funes Mori up top and the like, I think that they have more dangerous weapons. I do think that Nashville is one of the more balanced teams in MLS. I do believe that they have, great attackers, especially bringing in Sam Surridge. They've needed a number 9 for a really long time. You look at the likes of Hani Mukhtar running the 10 at times, and a midfield with the veteran Dax McCarty. You have Walker Zimmerman at the back, Joe Willis, who's not even playing goalkeeper anymore because of the penalties in this competition. They deferred to their backup goalkeeper. They have really good quality MLS players, and they have since they enter the league with Inter Miami. They've always had the upper hand on Inter Miami. That first year when Miami took them on in the playoffs, in Nashville, the 3-0 loss, it was an embarrassing performance. So I have a little bit of a distaste for Nashville and traveling there. But we'll see. I think it's going to be, I don't know. I'm not even going to say it's going to be tough either way because of what we just saw Miami do to Philadelphia. I take Philadelphia over both of the teams that I'm watching right now.
I agree. I think Philadelphia was definitely the most dangerous of the 3 remaining teams, including the 2 that are playing right now. I think that anything that we've seen in the past, especially like the results that we've had against Nashville, is really to be taken with a grain of salt, just because this is a completely different team. We can kind of compare statistics and see how we did against Nashville in our previous matchups, but I mean, this team is unlike anything any of these other teams have faced. But between the two, I would say probably I agree with you. Monterrey is a team that's definitely more dangerous. They're a team that beat who I thought was going to be our rival before I knew we would go to the final against LAFC. Like, I did not expect them to win. And the fact that they were able to attack so much, get so many shots, not only just shots in general, but actually shots on goal. I think out of the 18, or did they have 20 shots? I think it might have been.
It was close to 20, if not 20.
Yeah, but they had like 8, I think like 8 shots on goal. So they were able to get there convincingly. And then talent-wise, they're a very talented team. Like you mentioned, those Mexican teams are able to spend so much more than the MLS side on
and
talent.
not all of them do, but Monterrey is one of them that do, and that's why they've advanced. Yeah, one of the top spenders in all of, I guess, North American club competition, you can say. They're up there, so they've got the quality players, and I think that could probably prove a tough test for Miami at home. I guess maybe the toughest test that Miami have faced at home, maybe outside of Orlando, but even then, how do you not trust what Messi has done? I just think that all signs are pointing to Miami winning this competition because of the quality that we've seen. And tonight proved to be no test for Inter Miami. It was immediately on the front foot again and again. They've done it in this tournament where they've scored early, set the tone, and put teams on their back heels. And I don't nothing is pointing to that stopping. Not a single thing. So
no, they continue to get better, which is crazy enough. Like, I mean, they've had to, and we it seems like a recurring point. So we talk about this on other pods and other lives. It's just they're very resilient, and they've been able to get through tough matches, through tough situations, going down by 2 goals in some games, and still being able to claw back in, not give up, where other teams might have given up, especially after things like own goals that are very demoralizing. They've been able to be strong. And then after those games, what are the last 2 games we've won convincingly. And every pod we're talking about, this is our toughest matchup. This is our toughest matchup. Yeah. And then we end up winning convincingly. So it's like, I at this point, I respect every team we play against, but from what I've seen, I do not think any team can beat us. I'm not fearful of any team. I just know, okay, this team might be tough here and there, but I'm convinced, like you said, that I believe we take this cup for sure.
Yeah, I do agree. And on that note, we're gonna wrap up here. It's been an hour and 17 minutes. Consistently 300 of you guys tuned in. We really, really thank you guys and appreciate all the comments. If you're watching this post the live show, leave your comments in the actual comment section on YouTube. We'll go ahead and get back to you there. Follow the Twitter at Messi & Co. We're posting daily content there, tweets all of the time, and also promoting the actual podcast itself that you can go ahead and find on Apple Podcasts, on Spotify, on Google Play, etc. Wherever you get your podcasts, it's there. Thank you to our sponsors, La Aqua Azuda and Mosaics, for sponsoring the show and everything that we do here at 5 Reasons Sports and Messi & Co. Inter Miami finally reaching a final for their first time in club history after defeating Philadelphia Union away from home 4-1. Sarah, thank you as well. Make sure you stay tuned. We will have English and Spanish episodes leading up to Saturday's final, August 19th. Don't know where it'll be just yet, and I'm not going to say I'm confident that I'm staying up for the next 45 minutes to watch what happens. I might wake up to the news, but we'll see. Gian, any last words?
Guys, stick around. We got plenty more content to come. Make sure you follow us on YouTube. Make sure you follow our pods. And we've got some really good episodes planned for you. We got a lot of cool content we're also planning on bringing to you. But more than anything, I just want you guys to know we appreciate you watching us. We read all the comments. We're trying our best to answer them. And we just love you guys being around. So thank you so much for that.
I couldn't have said it any better myself, Gian. I might have to have you do all the outros from here on out. All right, guys. Thank you very much. Like the podcast if you can here that you're listening to right now. Subscribe to the 5 Reasons Sports channel, and we'll catch you guys before and on Saturday. Thank you very much, everybody.